Yes, yes. Welcome into the Tim McKernan Show on the Inside STL Podcast Network. It is September 13th, 2021. We are in the HomeLoanExpert.com studios. Timothy Michael McKernan, Action Jackson. Action Jackson, what's the word?
Oh, man.
Tell me the word. I want to know what the word is.
Really solid weekend.
What happened?
Well,
you have anal or something?
No, unfortunately. No anal play this weekend, but, still on the board.
Yeah, it's a SEMO week, so it should be this weekend.
Absolutely. So much good sports on. It was my dad's birthday over the weekend. Got to hang out with my whole family.
How old did he turn? He turned 62.
He turned 68 years old.
Was that right?
Yeah, 68 years old.
With you being such a young tyke, I figured that...
Yeah. I have, my siblings are old. My brother's 10 years older than me, and my sister's 12 years older than me. So a little bit of discrepancy there. But my father looks fantastic for 68. You wouldn't think he's a day over 55. Luscious head of hair, which really stings. Yeah, no, it stings.
Stings all of us in this studio.
It really stings. Really great head of hair, like John Lennon. And so that was, but it's always, he smoked a brisket, which can't beat. So I had a fantastic weekend. Wish the Tigers would have fared better, but, can't win them all.
I really did as well. I just am so, weather, unfortunately, dictates my state of mind.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a good thing. That's not a positive trait.
You're definitely not alone.
It just, because if I'm able to be outside. So here's what I did. Friday, had a great round. I have been, I thought I was done with competition, but I have another competition. That's why we have best of on Friday.
Yeah.
This weekend. And so I started messing with my swings. I only hit like a 4-iron, like 190. Well, we've talked about it. We both don't hit our irons as well as and I think that's, I'm not going to get into the particulars because I'm going to lose everybody. So I started messing with my swing with swing instructor, Craig Story, who is ridiculously, I don't know too many people who know the golf swing better, but he throws a lot at me and I need to go step by step. And so my game, which you have bore witness to, I think
Boar. I think the boar.
Boar, is it boar?
Yeah,
Okay.
We'll go with it.
I mean, I just was a disaster.
Yeah.
And then I was playing in the game where I play money game. I'll give the game because it can get. I used to say, well, the most it can be is $96 a hole per person. But I guess that what's 96 times 2? 182? 192. Nurse? 192, right? 192.
Yeah.
So theoretically, it can be that if there's a repress. So let's see. There's a $20 Nassau, and then if you're down to, automatically new bet starts. So you could have 1 million of those going. Not 1 million, but a few of those going at once. And it's only for 9 holes. It's not for overall. So they close out on the 9th, and they close out on the 18th.
Yeah.
And it's $4 a point, and there are 5 points a hole. 1 point for whoever in the four. It's 2 people against 2 people. 1 point for whichever team has procs in regulation. There's no procs if nobody's on in regulation, so closest to the hole in regulation. 2 points for low team total. So if you and I were teammates and I got a 4 and you got a 6, our team total would be 10. Now, if you're getting a pop, our team total would be
9.
6, 5, 4, 9. 4 plus 5, 9. And then whichever of the 4 has the low ball, the team gets the total. If there's a birdie, it doubles. And then if there is a press, it doubles. And then if you can press on the tee box. And so if you press after you see your opponents, because the team ahead always hits first, and then the next team that pressed, you can get repressed if they hit shitty shots. So now all of a sudden you can have, you got to dig in.
Yeah, and almost keep like a notepad just to keep everything
I honestly,
together.
each hole, I won't go each hole because I know it's annoying. I mean, I'll have an idea of who won the hole, but I sometimes don't know on all the points.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can't go out with this group of guys, some of whom are loyal listeners of the podcast, by the way, and use this swing that I have been trying to implement, thinking the golf season was basically over and I would work on this this winter, because because I'm playing as a course 4 handicap and I'm really playing more like a 15 and I'm just going to be, I'll lose hundreds of dollars. Can't do it.
Yeah.
So I just unpacked it and went back to my old thing and then went out and shot 2 over. So it was lovely that I can go back and forth in between the two things, because I was kind of like, once I go to this, I won't be able to go back to the old thing.
Certainly.
The old thing has a much higher floor but a lower ceiling.
Yep.
The new thing has an incredibly low floor, but I think it's the thing that'll get me to, I think I'll get to a scratch golfer, and I think I'll get to a plus, but it's going to take a lot of work because it is, I don't think anybody's watching this outside of you, but it is turning, using the knee, which I don't do.
Yeah.
And then you can't see my left heel is up off the ground, and then like almost like a dance move. Now my right heel's off the ground. The weight has shifted, and it's like a Rory McIlroy kind of thing that I'm attempting to do.
Just activating
when I just picked up the game really 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, so to go out there and it was chaos, and so I've abandoned that. But either way, that wasn't what we were talking about. We were talking about the weekend, so I did that on Friday. And then played again, but took my son out yesterday with two of the guys I regularly gamble with,
for sure,
which is usually intense, but they're just like, oh, we're not gambling. Just come out. He was great. He was so great. We went all 18 holes. They loved him, screwed off, had fun. He hit balls. He hits a nice swing for 4 years old.
Certainly.
And, but then the one day I didn't go outside for the most part. I went to my niece's soccer game with my son on Saturday morning. My whole family was there, and that was cool. But
very much so.
I came home. Jameson was with my in-laws. Anna Marie was going to be out there, and she's like, you have 7 hours of just absolute do whatever the hell you want to do.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, I'll go home, I'll eat, and then I'll go up to the golf course, and maybe I'll just go out there and practice or whatever. And that'll make me happy, and then I'll come home and I'll watch Missouri, Kentucky.
Yeah.
There it is. But Oregon, Ohio State was such a good game.
Such a good game.
I start watching it, and I don't usually care that college football takes a while, but in this case, now the game didn't, I think it started at 11. It might have ended like 3:15-ish.
Yeah, it was getting close to 3:30.
Okay, and so then it ends, and then I look at the tee sheet, and the tee sheet's full. I'm like, fuck, I can't go anywhere. So then I wind up, well, I don't even know. The games at 2:30 didn't intrigue me as much. I know A&M was on the ropes, but wound up winning. There was another one.
Yeah.
Oh, Iowa State was a jack-off game.
That was lame.
Yeah, and so now it's 6:30. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to watch Missouri, Kentucky. That ends at whatever time, 10-something.
Yeah, 10.
I love watching Gabe's Power Mizzou. Do you ever watch Gabe's Power Mizzou postgame show?
Like the drink with Gabe thing?
It's great.
Yeah,
it's
takes
great.
Callers.
He takes calls.
So
I own a part of me, Anna Marie, and my son, too. I love the fact that he's laughing at this shit. It's great because that means he's got a demented sense of humor. I suppose it's not surprising since he calls me an asshole. So we're already on the right track. But we're watching it, Gabe deal with the phone lines. And part of me, Anna Marie and I are laughing and my son's laughing. I don't know if he knows what he's laughing at. And I love, like, Gabe might be one of my Mount Rushmore favorite people because it is just absolute. He suffers no fools.
Yeah.
It's the greatest. Yeah. And yet he's in this role of not only covering a, big time, I'm not saying Missouri's Alabama or Duke, something like that, Alabama football, Duke basketball. But, it is a big time. It's an SEC school.
Yeah.
But it's a tortured SEC school. It's not like Vanderbilt, where it's kind of like we went to Vanderbilt. If we win something great, we're all multimillionaires. We went to Vanderbilt. We're good. And Mississippi State kind of, I think, probably accepts what they are.
Yeah.
Ole Miss has its party scene, plus the people who go there, I think, are just going to whatever's going on with that situation. I feel like half the St. Louis metropolitan area goes to Ole Miss now. Missouri kind of, I think, and listen, I want to see Missouri win. I'm sure some Alabama fans would hear me say, I want to see Missouri win a football national championship. They'd probably do a spit take, or even a Georgia fan or a Florida fan.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, maybe even Arkansas fan. But that's where I am on it. So Gabe is not only this guy who's handling being the college guy for a college fan base in one of the Power Fives has got to be brutal. Not all the places, probably a lot less so in the Pac-12. But he's a Missouri guy, and he has zero interest in putting up with the bullshit. And so, you can just tell it, like, he's a second away at any moment from telling the entire audience to go fuck themselves. and that's what I love. So here he is, and I don't view us as old. You probably do, which is fine. You don't need to put a disclaimer on. It's fine. I'm 21 years older than you. But I don't view us as old. But I know Gabe, I think I probably am coming through the lens if I have a 4-year-old. Gabe has 2 kids out of the house already. I always kind of feel like that helps color it. And so Gabe's like, I'm too old. I know he thinks I'm too old to be doing this shit. And so Missouri loses a game, and now he's on YouTube.
At 10 o'clock.
At 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, taking phone calls with anytime somebody would call in, they'd go, hello, hello. And it's like a bad sports talk radio brokered show.
Yeah.
And then even if they just called in, they start talking, and he hasn't even punched them up. And then he thinks he's punched them up, but they're already on, and they are clearly listening to the stream. So there's like an 8-second delay. Gabe's trying to talk, but he can hear the echo of himself in the background, and you can tell he's so close to just disconnecting the whole thing and going to bed.
Seriously. Yeah, I've had a couple buddies call into that.
Oh, they call into it?
Yeah.
And Anna Marie goes, who would call into this? I go, who would argue with somebody on social media? I said, it doesn't matter. It's what goes on. It's but there he is doing it, and I'm watching it. And I'm like, I'm kind of interested in hearing what he has to say, but there's so many technical issues, and I feel so badly for him because I know he's like, God, I got to fucking do this, but whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, now it's 10:30. Now my son's going up to bed, just like most 4-year-olds, at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I'm going, I didn't do a damn thing with this day.
Yeah.
And yeah, I bet on football. Shipped it again, Jackson. Virginia, we gave it to you as the lock of the week on Pick 6. This wizard, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
He felt terribly about Iowa State. He was off on that, although he was on the under, and I didn't use it as one of my picks. But I used the Iowa State -4. He felt terribly about that. What else didn't he hit? I went 3-3, Pick 6 live on the live stream and on the Tim McKernan Show, presented by Tullamore Dew. I know he went 3-3. He won BYU. He won Virginia, Illinois. We missed Oregon, Ohio State over by a half point.
Oh my God, yeah. And that was the same score with like 8 minutes left to go in the game.
Yeah.
They just needed
I thought for
score.
sure, but it's so weird. He texted me with like 10 minutes left. He goes, we got to get some points. And I'm like, we're good. But then I was like, oh shit, he's texting me, and therefore it matters.
Yeah.
It's like my dad, I'll give my dad these picks, and he'll be, he's square.
Yeah.
And as am I. I'm just getting good information, which makes me winning. It's got nothing to do with me. And he's like, well, we're good on Ohio State. And then sure enough, they don't cover it by a half point. They scored 63 points in 3 quarters, but they scored no points in the first quarter, and that's why it didn't cover. Combined, no points. Arkansas, Texas, under which Texas scored on 4th and 2 with 2 minutes left. So that hurt. So did I go 4-2 or 3-3?
3-3.
What's the other game I lost?
Iowa State, Oregon, OSU over, and then Texas, Arkansas under.
Okay, all right.
And you hit Coastal, which was the freest money of all time.
Now that was a sweat, though. See, that's the thing. You can't complain when you win a sweat and you lose a sweat. That's part of the deal. It's like when people would tell bad beat stories in poker. If you play poker, you're going to have bad beats. It's just the way that it works. The math is the math.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's the fucking point of the Adderall session? The Adderall sessions is this. I have discovered, and I'm glad I've discovered it on week 1, that even when I'm betting, even when I've got action all over the place, that if I stay inside and I watch games, it is unfulfilling and I don't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if I would have gone out and played golf or hung out with my family or whatever the rest of the day, not that anybody did anything, went to my niece's soccer game and that was it, and been outside the house, I would have been able to appreciate and enjoy the Missouri game and like, that was nice to be able to watch a game and whatever. But when you did it for basically 9 hours, I feel empty inside.
I hear you. Yeah, that was me yesterday watching football for 6 straight hours.
So I'm like, I've got fuck it, whatever. No, I'm not going to say it. I think another lesson I've learned is, even though it's not my money, I know when you talk money, for whatever reason, people get it's a thing.
Yeah.
So, but the Tam Avenue Capital Partners were active on DraftKings. No surprise. And I spent a lot of the day on Saturday and Sunday morning, building out rosters. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to go out and play golf.
Yeah.
And if it winds up working out, great.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, I'm not going to sit in front of the TV and be watching school. I'm just not going to do that. That's not what I want to do. I'm not saying people who do it, they're wrong. I have learned, for me personally, and it's taken a while because I felt this way for a while, like on a Sunday night when inevitably we don't win money, or if we do, it's nominal, that I go to bed and I go, God, what a fucking waste of a day.
Yeah.
What a waste of a day. Now, if I had some people over or I went to a friend, family member's house and watched the games and spent time. But sitting in front of the TV and just watching games and gambling, for me, is a negative thing. Even if I'm winning money, it's just a negative thing. Now, if we would have won the million, different deal. But so I'm just like, I now know it. I guess when late October, early November rolls around, you don't necessarily want to be outside anyway. But there's just something for me, unfortunately, where I need to be outside. And I got to do it. And I feel better once I do it. It's like yesterday. I got up super fucking early, 6 o'clock. I'm like, God, why am I up? But I know if I go back to bed, then it'll screw up my sleep for tonight. So screw it, I'll get up. And then I work out. And I'm like, at least I've done that. Now I'm feeling good that I've done that. Even
good start.
So that's exactly. So as much as I love having football back on, I can't sit inside and watch it all day. I have to get out and do something. Indeed. Yeah. Can't do it. So with that all said, we do have the Pick Six podcast presented by Tullamore Dew. That'll be live at 6 p.m. And then if you miss it, of course, it's on the Tim McKernan Show podcast. This podcast, the Tim McKernan Show, QFTA with Action Jackson, is presented by Ryan Kelly, the home loan expert, online at thehomeloanexpert.com. If you're looking to buy a home or refinance, go online at thehomeloanexpert.com. He's the best. Really is the best. And I have done business in both capacities, both refinancing and with getting pre-approved with Ryan Kelly in the last 18 months, and I recommend it to you as well, thehomeloanexpert.com. James Carlton, once you get that home or once you get pre-approved, once you refinance, make sure you're working with James Carlton, 314-961-4800, or go online at carltoninsurance.net. If your insurance costs a leg and an arm, call James Carlton State Farm. And if you're doing it during the business hours, somebody's going to pick up and talk to you right away. I love that customer service at James Carlton. They're in Webster Grove, State Farm Insurance, 314-961-4800, or go online at carltoninsurance.net. If your insurance costs a leg and an arm, call James Carlton State Farm. He really is the best. If he wasn't, I wouldn't have switched to him, and I have been a James Carlton client now for 3 years. We're approaching the 4th anniversary of this podcast, by the way.
Getting close to 450 episodes.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think this will be episode 438.
I almost kind of got into the plan, so to speak, but I'm looking forward to doing more podcasting. When you think of any water in your home, you get water in your home, make sure you're working with Jim Rogers, Restoration One, 314-565-1962. Restoration One of Central St. Louis would like to remind you that if stormwater enters your home or a washing machine overflows or your sewer drain backs up, chances are your efforts won't be enough to completely dry your home. You know what happens when you don't get it completely dry? Mold. Avoid mold by working with Jim Rogers of Restoration One. 314-565-1962. That's 314-565-1962. Have your home professionally assessed and dried by the water damage experts at Restoration One of Central St. Louis. All right. Let's see what we got in here. I got a bunch. And some are from back, but I haven't been able to get to them. So I'm starting back. Some are from August, actually. All right. Why does TMA work so well? I try to do one TMA question to like appeal to the crossover.
Yeah, I like that. I like that play.
Why does TMA work so well? What is the secret formula? With the lineup changes / fill-ins of the show has had over the past couple of months, anytime there is someone who fills in for either Tim or Doug, it feels different. Jackson filled in for Tim and did a great job. This kept bringing me back to the question of what makes a show so great. Why does it work? First thing, you have to analyze the 3 main characters, Tim, Doug, and Iggy. The way they play off of one another is amazing. Never a dull moment. That dynamic immediately made me think of the classic comedy duos where they have the funny man and the straight man like Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy. Hell, you could even bring in the 80s with Beavis and Butthead. Iggy would be the funny man with all of his countless stories of incest and debauchery. Doug would be the straight man gawking at Iggy's crazy tales and providing a great counterbalance. That led to me to think where Tim lands in the dynamics of the show. It came to mind that there is another classic comedy team that fits TMA perfectly, the Three Stooges. The straight man is Larry, Doug. The funny man is Curly, Iggy. And the third guy is Mo, the ringleader, Tim. Tim, just like Mo, is a great mix of both straight and zany. Has this dynamic of classic comedy been conscious or subconscious? Have you ever noticed the similarities of classic comedy and TMA? Do you have any other insights into why this TMA lineup works so well? Keep up the great work. That's from Josh. I saved it. That's one, now that I've read it, I almost want you to edit out because I kind of feel like in a way it's self-indulgent. I I so often I think about like Buck Swope being in here or like interviewing us because I feel like it's like when Jay was asking me questions, I'm like, oh, the audience wonders this, but nobody in the audience communicates it to me, but they communicate it to Jay, or I know Iggy gets DMs from like the same guys 50 times a show.
Yeah.
So Iggy's kind of the secret pipeline to the audience, although I don't know if Iggy knows that we know he's the secret pipeline. But either way, this is kind of here's what I would tell you from my opinion on it. There's absolutely no like, oh, let's put together a show and we'll, and I'm sure people know this, but we'll follow in the footsteps of the Three Stooges.
Not formulaic.
No, exactly. It's organic.
Yeah.
So when why does it work? Well, there is talent. But I don't know. But when I think of talent, Jackson, I don't think of what we do as talent. I think of, I don't even know what to say like a Michael Jordan would be, but even Jake Woodford, I'm picking an obscure member of the Cardinals.
Certainly. The
The ability to throw a baseball is an ability that not everybody has that fast.
Yeah.
In talking with Adam Long, for example, and how he's, one of the tops on PGA Tour in hitting fairways, but distance, well, when I'm playing with him, he's hitting at 40 yards past me, at least. He's middle of the pack on distance. And I go, can you do that? He goes, no, some guys are just born with it. They just have fast twitch muscles and that's what they can do. So that in that sense is talent. I think what specific to my role and what I do, I don't think I have a talent. I think I have a brain that doesn't function properly. Properly being the way the bell curve of brains function. I think something is wrong with me. And I'm not saying this to be self-deprecating in a sense. I mean, although I know it can come off that way. And because it's unique, it can come off as a talent. But I think the fact that I can sit in a room, and even if you weren't here, no disrespect to you, I would still be talking and could talk for 2 hours. I don't necessarily think that's like a talent. Now, by definition, I guess it would be called a talent, but I just think my brain works weirdly. I think the memory thing is weird. I think my, I don't even know what the right word, ability to argue, but in a way that is like, almost like Will Hunting in the How You Like Them Apples scene.
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily a talent. I think it's almost like I don't want to call it awkwardness. Something works differently in a bad way because I'm so emotionless.
You avoid the ad hominem. You don't go at people like personally if you ever argue with someone.
Maybe that's it. I don't. There was I'll try to make it because people prefer anecdotes than this type of shit, and then I'll get into what my observation is of Doug and Iggy. And by the way, before I go there, it's funny to read like the main characters in the show, Tim, Doug, and Iggy. When if we would have said, what would it be now, 14, 15 years ago, the main characters in the show, Martin, the cat, and Tim. Yeah. So let's. But I realize most people haven't been listening that long, so they don't understand. And then it's like, Jackson does such a great job. Well, Jackson wasn't even part of the show a year ago. Yeah. So there have been a variety of pieces, and yet the thing continues to move along. But with that all said, there was some girl next door party. How familiar are you with the girl next door thing? Because you're familiar with it, but you would have been like 13 when it was like we had our final one.
Yeah, all I know is a lot of grandmothers passed away.
A lot of grandmothers passed away. It was brutal. And I'm sure some of the people listening to this don't even know what I'm talking about. Not some of, a lot of the people. It's really how Inside STL went from just being a website to being like surviving and now owning this content and TMA, although not operating. I want to make that clear. And it was a girl next door, and some girl came up to me at a Hot Shots, and it wasn't a Hot Shots employee, complaining about something with the vote. And she was all emotional. Yeah. And one of the photographers who handled the girl next door photo shoots and somebody else who worked at Inside STL were just watching the conversation. And she's kind of yelling at me not like screaming, but like she's banty.
Passionate.
Yeah, I mean, what would be called in 2021 a Karen situation, albeit like a 22-year-old Karen situation.
Yeah, those exist.
And I didn't engage.
Yeah.
I just let her say her piece. And then at that point, I think the fact that I didn't engage might have freaked her out, because I think she like the reward for her was reptilian brain. So therefore we're going to fight.
Yeah.
And then I just directly, without like raising my voice or anything, I just laid out points 1, 2, and 3, why she was wrong and that she's wasting my time. And if she has anything else, come to the table with facts. Otherwise, I have a job to do. And she just stood there like,
Yeah, shocked.
like she got dunked on.
Yeah.
And then the two girls who were watching it go, "Oh my God, that was like weird to watch." And I go, "What was so weird about it?" I just told her what happened. She goes, "Yeah, but you like destroyed her, but you did it so calmly that it was like she doesn't know how to react. Like she's like a statue, Yeah. And I go, "Yeah, well, I wasn't doing it for effect. She was just wrong. I recognize when people are trying to bait me. And most of the time, it's like, okay, go fuck yourselves.
Yeah.
I know what I've got, and I know why you're in a position where you're trying to bait me because some things haven't worked out for you. And so I'm not going to give you what you want," which is a reaction.
Yeah.
But in my mind, that all plays out. And so therefore, that is how it comes out. So to tie it to something personal, whether I'm arguing with a significant other, I guess it's only really when I'm arguing now. I guess to an extent, Doug on the show, although we don't really argue often. But Doug, I think, is more quote unquote relatable because Doug comes from the emotional thing.
Mm-hmm.
And emotion works.
Certainly.
Emotion is Donald Trump. Emotion is, I'm trying to think of somebody on the left who would be emotion. I don't know who would be. Feel
That's
free
tough.
to insert one.
It's tough. I don't know necessarily.
Because I think if you want to go politics, I think I'm more not in any other way other than really direct and emotionless and hyper policy Obama, which I don't think resonates with a lot of people unless like that's what stimulates you is just like, well, some nerds like, I mean, here I am. I've talked about it before. My entire drive to Florida, almost like from Mount Vernon all the way to Jupiter, Florida. Mm-hmm. So we're talking 20 hours. I tried to get through Barack Obama's book, which is him reading it, and it was like torturing me because it was so fucking boring. Yeah. Which worries me if I were to ever write a book. Like I might need like I'll tell the story. Well, Doug will know most of the stories anyway, but I'll tell the stories to Doug, and then Doug can do it in a way that'll make it more relatable, so to speak, because then it'll be more emotional. Because mine will be, well, Dan Marshall did this, and then I did that, and then we put him out of business. But there's more stories to make it more music. But when Doug argues emotionally, and I think more people are emotional than they are analytical, and I think people relate more to emotion than analysis. People relate more to love. People relate more to religion, even though from an analytical standpoint, it makes absolutely no sense and is, counter logic.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to hear that. You're not going to win an election by telling people, this whole God thing, there've been, thousands of peoples over the course of humanity who have had a variety of different gods. I don't know why ours is right and theirs is wrong, but whatever, you will immediately lose said election.
Yep.
So therefore, to base policy on God would strike me as ill-informed. But, I can't say that stuff. But I'm not running for office. So I think my quote-unquote talent is actually a flaw. I don't think my talent is something that I realize it's unique, but it's weird in the sense that it's not like I like with Doug. Mm-hmm. Doug appeared on the show today for the first time in more than a month. And to me, I almost felt like I was listening to a stand-up comedy act.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. Like he had material.
Yep.
Now he had his reason for having material.
Yep.
And we had discussed that via text last night. But that's who he is. He is just an inherently funny person, i.e. talented person who can, but also gets what he's doing.
Yeah. Self-aware.
Yes.
Yeah.
God, I don't know if I've I want it. There will come a time, and it might be on, whether it be my last day of the show, his last day of the show, the final day of the show, whenever that time comes. I feel like, and I got done with the phone call with Doug, and this was maybe a year ago at this point. And I went upstairs and I said to my wife, I said, this is why Doug Vaughn has been on TV, and he's been on TV nonstop, I think, since the late 70s, starting in Minnesota, then to Miami. I mean, not just like Minneapolis. We're talking Rochester, Minnesota, like a super small market. Then to Miami. Now, granted, Miami wasn't as big then as it is now, but still, it's a big jump. And then to St. Louis. And then worked in radio for 14 years on top of it and never had a problem. Like the cleanest rap sheet. And then on top of it, anybody who would work with him, not just say stuff publicly, but anybody who work with him would say, yeah, what can you possibly say negative?
A+ guy.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Part of it's the self-awareness.
Certainly.
So it's just, but with that all said, that's a talent. And I'm going to talk about self-awareness being a talent, although that's a great trait.
Mm-hmm.
His humor and his ability to deliver humor is a talent.
Yeah.
That's a talent.
Yeah.
To me, that's a talent.
Yeah.
Iggy's talent is also delivering humor, but it's in a different, it would fall under the umbrella of humor. Now tell me if you disagree with any of this, by the way. It's under the umbrella of humor, but it's a different style of humor than Doug's. And here I am, and I've worked with him for as long as I've worked with him. I know him as well as I've known him. I've known him since 1998. And there are some times where I can't tell if he's serious. So to me, his talent is his ability to deliver a line and have it be as deadpan, monotone as possible, that he has people who love him. He has people who hate him, but they can't get enough of him either way, which is a talent. And he doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
That's a talent.
Yeah.
You are talented, and I know it. I can't figure out what it is yet. Well, here it is. I'll tell you. This is usually the things you don't say to somebody when they're sitting in the room, but you're going to get it now.
Cool.
Likability, ambitious, great attitude, perhaps the best attitude we've ever had on the show. And in a way, it sounds like a compliment. At the same time, when you kind of like list it out, it isn't that much. It's like, kind of winning the, the NFC West in 2010.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I mean, because I fucking love Joe and I love Pete, but I think the shit surrounding the show on the outside would wear him down, and understandably so.
Yeah.
But also a talent to be on air, which the great thing with you is you don't really care if you're on air.
No.
Didn't get into this to get on air. Just get into it, I think, because you like the show, right? I mean, that's basically the bottom line.
Yeah.
So you have the dynamics of the show. Matt Rocchio, who is currently board opping for the program, and who knows, might be board operating for the program for the next 10 years. I have no idea. I truly don't have any idea. Has an ability to fire the drops that add to the show.
Yeah.
That's a huge ability.
Huge.
Because it adds to the show.
Yeah.
And is a really good guy.
Yeah.
So the key, though, to me, if you're like, okay, that's fine. You've given me 10 minutes of an answer, but you still haven't really answered the question. The key is everybody understands the dynamic of the show, which is you're in the reindeer games, you're going to get attacked, and you're going to attack, and you can't take any of it personally.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes, because it's a roast.
Yeah.
And if you have anybody on the roast dais, reacting negatively, it absolutely blows up the dynamic. If you have any of the people on the dais not getting along, then those two people really can't roast each other, because then it's like, are they roasting me or are they taking a shot?
Yeah.
And never, when I've been present anyway, have I felt like anything on the show has been taking a shot. So
not since I've been here.
Yeah,
sure.
well, yeah, definitely since you've been here, and that's the key.
Uh-huh.
That's the key. Usually when I talk about Howard Stern now, I talk about the interviews, because I never listen to anything other than the interviews. But I was playing golf with one of our sponsors I made reference to earlier, James Carlton. And he said, boy, Howard Stern's back, and he's in the news right away. And I go, really? What the hell happened?
Oh, yeah.
Are you aware of this?
Yeah.
What do you know what it is? Let's see if you know what it is.
Him going after that anti-vax radio guy.
Now, have you listened to the segment?
No, okay, I read the story.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, and I've oftentimes said about predicting the death of my career, TMA, however it'll go. It'll be a newspaper article writing about it without people listening to it.
I was aware at the time that this is going to be taken out of context.
So James goes, oh yeah, Washington posted a big story on it. I'm like, oh, I got to go back and listen. So I listened to it. First off, it is so damn good. It really is. I think what I think of when I think of the show now, like my negative when I think of his show now is like, oh, it's like Tan Mom and it's Ronnie the limo driver and it's, I guess he's got some news reporter guy and holy shit is he, he was very graphic about his gay sex life.
Oh,
I mean, here I am. I'll sit on this show all the time going, I'm as socially liberal as it gets. And I'm like, oh, God, I guess I'm not as socially liberal as it gets.
Or sex positive.
I mean, yeah. I'm listening to it, and it's kind of amusing, but I'm like, wow, okay. This is putting my social liberalness and sex positivity to the test. But either way, whatever. That's not the point. The point is, he's the Adderall Sessions.
Yeah.
He's the Adderall Sessions.
He's all over the place.
Oh, yeah. So I'm listening to that to try to get to the point where then the story, I would guess 10% of the people listening to this are aware of what the story is. I wasn't even aware of it as a Stern listener. That he was saying, I'm tired of being cooped up in my house. I'm tired of that because he's really abiding by COVID restrictions. Yeah, listening to that, I'm like, is this Manhattan? Or I think he's out in the Hamptons. I don't know where he is now.
Probably Long Island or something like that.
Or are we just super, as weird as it might sound, liberal in St. Louis and Missouri with it, or conservative, however you want to view it, and they super liberal or conservative with it in New York? Is this a totally different deal? Because to me, it's like, yeah, I'm out and about, and most of the time I'm not even thinking about it unless I'm going into a place and I'm like, oh, I got to go grab my mask. So that's where my mindset is on it. And he's like, he's not leaving the house. And then he went off on a tangent about radio guys, a number of conservative talk radio guys who were making fun of people wearing masks, talking about how they're anti-vax, and then how they died and how he was, celebrating that essentially. Now, when I listened to the segment, I'm like, wow, this is going to be, based on what I had read, I thought it was going to be this big thing.
Yeah, like pre-planned.
No, like a bigger deal in the segment.
Okay, I gotcha.
And, well, I think it was pre-planned in the sense he knew we wanted to talk about it, but he wanted to talk about a variety of different topics because they hadn't done a show in like 2 months.
Yeah.
But it really wasn't that big of a deal. Now, when you read the story, you would have thought this was this big thing, but the juiciest quotes are that, and that's it. He doesn't spend a whole lot of time on it, but he's like, these guys, I mean, it's they're sitting there, and then what are your dying words? My dying words are, I wish I would have taken the vaccine, So I was listening to that, and I was thinking to myself, the dynamic he has is certainly something that I'm influenced by because that's what I listened to.
Yeah.
From the time I was in broadcasting school to, starting our own show without question and hearing that dynamic. But the difference is it's basically him just talking with Robin kind of agreeing, and then he will bring in the news reporter who then he talks to about his gay sex life with his Colombian model boyfriend. And then he moves that piece out, and then he brings in audio, which he then comments on, and Robin will agree with and laugh, and then pushes that out. And that's it. So that you have the multiple piece dynamic.
Yeah.
But the multiple pieces are pushed in and out, and it's all built around Howard. The difference on our thing outside of $500 million versus that is all of our pieces are active on the air at any moment, and I think understand that they are welcome. You are welcome to be on the air at any moment. It is not like, okay, well, you're a producer, so you can't interact.
Yeah.
I think we all kind of recognize the certain topics, like when the cat was on the show.
Yeah.
When we would talk Missouri football, it's not like he would go, well, I'm out.
Yeah.
He just knew he didn't watch it. It wasn't something he was nearly as passionate about as me, Doug, Pete. And why would he get into it? When Doug and him would get into something on politics, it might not be something I'm all that into.
Yeah.
And then I think sometimes people in the audience would take it as, oh, somebody's mad that the topic's being brought up. No, you let the two people who know it best or most passionate about it get involved.
Yeah.
Iggy takes his smoke breaks oftentimes when we're talking sports.
Yep.
The cat would, he would announce, but I think that was for TV purposes, the plausible deniability, that he was getting wings when we would have a porn star on.
Yep.
And I get it. It wasn't like it's Jim Hayes or Doug Vaughn, for that matter, never once, ever have or has, whatever, said, hey, I think we shouldn't talk about this topic. Ever. Whereas I'm sure plenty of people go, man, I wonder if their TV jobs would have a problem with this. That's just the truth.
Yeah.
But they withdraw from the conversation if they're like, this might get me into trouble. Or Doug will make sounds to make it clear that he is not on board,
Yep.
at least publicly, even though internally he's loving it, with the conversation. So, as I call it, the plausible deniability.
Yeah.
So I think the key, and another thing is, I think, and it might sound weird to answer this question of why has it worked. We're not friends. And by that, I mean we don't hang out. And I want to take it a step further. No one hangs out. Like, it would be bad if you and me hung out. Or it'd be bad if you and Iggy hung out. Or it'd be bad if me and Doug hung out and then the other people on the show didn't. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, if everybody's kind of the individual, but then all coming together to create the team.
Yeah.
There isn't a clique.
No.
And that's a thing that you don't think about until then somebody asks, well, why has it worked? And then you got to go think to yourself, well, why has it worked? Because I know we sit down and talk and we're not thinking anything.
Yeah.
But I think that's something that's important. I think if, take your pick of whomever, really, were to hang out away from the show, I think it could, I don't want to say it could cause problems, but then it's like, if the two of them were giving somebody shit, it could be like, they're, picking on somebody not in the, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, because then you're like, I hear what you're saying. It's tough to say. But.
Yeah, it's a weird deal. And again, I want to make it clear. I mean, we all, I guess we are friends, but we're not like hangout friends. Yeah, that's the way I would describe it.
Never once has anyone when I've been here been like, hey, I'm going to this bar if you guys want to come over and we'll watch this game. That's not the case.
Right.
But I would say we're all extremely friendly.
Right. And I think it's an accident in the sense that it happened that way, but I actually think it's important for a success of a show like this, where the root of the show is giving shit and getting shit.
Yep.
Because if you're ever in a spot, and it's happened, I'm talking about however many shows we've done, 17 years times,
15 segments a week. That's a lot.
Yeah, so inevitably it's happened. But for real, I don't know if I can count it on two hands how many times it's happened where it's like, okay, there's a little tension between these two people right now. You recognize it. But I don't know if you could have a show like we have if you did have a clique or something along those lines. So it's good in that sense. And I think a lot of it is just the byproduct of where people are in their lives.
Yeah.
When I was in my 20s and getting after it, Doug wasn't going to be over at the strip bars with me. The cat wasn't going to be over at the strip bars with me. Now we're all parents, different stages of our parenthood. You're 23, so I theoretically could be your father.
Yeah.
Doug could theoretically be mine.
Yeah.
We're at different points in our lives, but everybody comes together to bullshit. And I also think that's a thing. Even though it is however many people are on the show at whatever given moment, all white guys, there are different age perspectives and different political perspectives that come to the table. And I don't think anybody demonizes, another thing, I'm arriving at answers as we go, demonizes anybody for their opinions. No. And that's huge. That would be a problem. Like if somebody, Doug's politics probably the most well-known of the group. And if somebody's like, well, I can't possibly, like kind of the emails that I'll occasionally get, how can you work with him? Or why do you let him say that? Those kinds of things. Like if I were to say to Doug, hey, you can't say that about this person or this policy anymore.
Yeah.
Doug has never once said, hey, I have a TV job and, I know you worked there, so you know the deal. Can we just not talk about threesomes or cucking or whatever?
Yeah.
That would suck.
Yep.
And by the way, I would get it if he would do it.
Yeah.
but it would suck.
Yeah.
Because every day we sit down there and it's like we can talk about whatever.
Anything.
And I'm sitting in here with you and I feel like I can talk about whatever. I can say whatever. Now, that doesn't mean you can then now break the law. You can slander people. There's a difference there.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, you can spout off falsehoods. There's a difference there. But as far as opinion goes, even if I completely disagree with it, I don't disrespect it.
Yep.
And I think that's an important thing. So now if somebody's sitting here going, okay, well, I want to create a show like TMA, I don't know how the fuck you would do it because when it gets down to it, it's all of these different individuals coming together for the sum is the greater than the whatever parts thing that I always butcher anytime we're asked about.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, the whole is the greater than the sum of its parts or something like that.
Yeah. You're in the right ballpark.
The whole is greater than the sum of its parts there.
Yeah.
All right, Jackson, I've given my opinion. You have now been a part of it, but also a listener. What is your opinion?
Yeah, I think last week we had the perfect example of it, in my opinion, was at 8:05 we had Ozzie Smith, and at 9:05 we had Lisa Ann.
Yeah.
Like doing both. Like when the Blues won the Cup, that was a great show. Same as if we do something goofy and Iggy tells some story about Hito. Also a great show. The Rams relocation thing was, I mean, really outstanding work by everyone on the program of covering that. And at the same time, that's like the start of when cuckold talk became a thing. It's the best of both worlds, essentially, because no one wants just straight, no, I shouldn't say no one, because plenty of people do. But for me personally, at least, I don't want just straight sports talk.
I don't think younger people want that.
No.
I don't think younger people want that.
No, they don't want that for 3 straight hours. And at the same time,
But if the Cardinals were in the NLCS, they would. When the Blues were in the Stanley Cup run, not even the Cup final, they would. It just depends. But if you have to force it.
Yes.
And I'm so grateful. Listen, it's been well documented. Not all of it certainly has been documented about, you know, the fascinating situations the show has been in over the 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that has been a constant is we have never had, not never, but not in the last I don't know how long. You got to go back to the aughts, well into the aughts, to have anybody in management or ownership telling us what we need to talk about or don't talk about on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, you know, it's kind of, it's, you know, there's some negatives, of course, with some things, but that's a positive of it in the sense that we can sit there and talk about whatever. Like if we were at a place that had a relationship with the Rams and we were talking about the Rams relocation thing like we were in 2012, 13, 14, and 15, my guess is somebody would have come in and said, hey, you guys gotta tamp that down.
Yeah.
You know, or you gotta stop.
Yeah.
One or the other. And that is huge because I think for the younger audience that this show certainly reaches, as opposed to, I suppose, you know, take your pick of whatever other outlets or shows, so much of what a younger audience, I don't even think wants, but just expects is authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as possible is transparency, but authenticity. And so you don't have people espousing things that they truly don't feel, even if they know that the audience doesn't necessarily share the opinion or the majority of the people on the dais don't share that opinion. So it works that way. It's just, I mean, truly lightning didn't just strike once, it struck twice, because to me, when Martin left, I know the cat really thought it was over. I didn't think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a reflection of Martin. I think if I would have left, I don't think it would have been over. If the cat would have left, I don't think it would have been over. The point being, it wasn't any one of the three.
Yeah.
The thing is stronger than any one. That is my premise. And it's almost like a culture.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not a person.
Yeah.
Which is why and it's not to pick on Dan Caesar at all. He's usually only a person who writes about it in the newspaper, and understandably so. But when it's like, Tim McKernan's show, and I'm like, it's just not.
Yeah.
And I know I've said this a bunch, but it is not my show. It's also not Doug Vaughn's show. It's not Iggy's show. It's not your show.
Yeah.
It is our show. And that's why when somebody says, you know, the key players, you, Doug, and Iggy, and I'm like, okay. I mean, 5 years ago, what would you say the key players are? 10 years ago, what would you say the key players? And the names would change.
Yeah.
And that's That's my premise. All right, I've answered one question, and we've already gone 25 minutes, so I got to go. Hey, Tim. Oh, a real live girl.
Ooh.
I've seen the question, but I didn't realize it came from a real live girl. I skipped the one that I was going to go to next. Well, I'll go to the real life girl first. It's not what you think it is. And honestly, I was debating when I initially was hitting delete, but I'm like, I'll answer it because this will be a quick hitter.
Cool.
Especially if you would have said an over and under, I would have helped me get to the over.
A good bullet.
Yeah. Hey, Tim, as someone who has listened regularly or has only listened regularly for 2 years and podcasts a day late to the shows, and about 3 weeks late to QFTA, I apologize if you've covered this in the past or recently. One of the great things about the show is the live reads for the sponsors. I'm surprised to hear an audience member say that. I will tell you, it is the greatest thing about the show because it's why the show exists.
Yeah.
That's another thing, by the way.
Uh-huh.
This is out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Where do you think I'm going with this? Let's see if you're really on the page. Because sometimes I feel like I just go off on tangents, and I don't blame you for kind of tuning in and out because it is the Adderall sessions.
Certainly.
But my way to catch my son at 4 is I'll go, okay, what did I just say? And he has nothing, This is kind of, I'm going to now put you to the test.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea where I'm going with this? What I was about to say, another great thing.
Another great thing.
And you've heard the first 2 lines of the email.
Is how much they like an advertiser's, like Mark Hanna's calls.
Well, I'm going to say yes. Okay. That for as many live reads as I do, and I've had to do them all while Doug has been out.
Yep.
So I'm doing some of the ones that Doug normally does, which therefore means I'm sometimes doing 3 or 4 in a row, which isn't the way we historically structure it, but because of the circumstance, we have to.
Yeah.
Because I'm averaging 19 to 21 per show.
Yeah, we're in that range.
Okay. I can't stop the show and then do one and then stop the show and then do one. Can't do it.
No.
But I really feel like I said this on the radio today, and I mean it in a big way, because when I was initially texting with John Vaughn about his dad's situation, more than a month ago at this point, I'm just like, I really hope that people respect your family's request for privacy. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, 99% of the people will.
Yeah.
But we're going to remember the 1% who won't.
Yep.
And honestly, it's been incredible how people have handled it. I think there are some things going around that are inaccurate. I saw a little, what I thought was kind of like, okay, the group text thing. Now somebody's trying to maybe cast it out into the fan page and see if they can gain traction with it.
Yeah.
Because there are a bunch of TMA listener group texts, which is fine. I mean, it's like I have friends, we group text. People have met each other on the fan page and they're friends.
Yeah.
And you'll get screenshots asking, is this true? This person says this. But that the audience has for as much shit as we all get, your approval rating on the fan page, I would say is it second or third on the show? I'll say Doug is first, Iggy is second, you're third. You might be second though.
I
don't know.
I don't know on that.
I think I'm fourth and Raby's fifth.
Yeah.
I think that's where that's my current September 13th.
Yeah, fifth is absolutely correct. Unfortunately, because Chris.
I think
great,
my first is up for grabs. But with that all set, for as much shit as we get and the hatred, whether direct or passive aggressive or just whatever, clear dislike, whatever, across the board, this is important to say. The audience has been so respectful of Doug's situation.
Yeah.
So respectful. And I just draw it to, because I'm communicating with Doug's wife and John Vaughn. I'm not texting with Nick or Greg. Not to say that I wouldn't. It's just I'm texting with John. That if it were my dad, or if my son were old enough and it were me and my son's concerned, and you get on a page that's called the fan page, but
might have other ideas.
And people were speculating on the health of my father, or if this is, hell, I mean, now, let's say my son's 16, so 12 years from now, and he's reading stuff, people speculating about me, that would be brutal, because you're already concerned.
Yeah.
And now you got that part to it.
Yeah.
And that was the thing when I was talking with John right out of the gate. I said, hey, I know this, but I said, think about this part and think about this part. And then also, I know, this is how, this is how your dad feels about the fan page.
Yeah.
And so with regards to, I said, we got to be, we just got to be careful on this because, for as much as you and I, both on the left, okay, feel about Doug, who is obviously on the right, all it would take would be one to go, oh, I bet he didn't get vaxxed and he's got COVID, and then which, bullshit. But either way, and then it spins into now we're going to debate what's going on with my dad or with my husband if you're Jody, and people speculate, and then it's like me or you, who are the current admins on the thing, neither of whom are on there all that often, don't find out about it. Yeah, and it's just there, and it just percolates into something grotesque. And you're worried about your dad's health because nobody at the time knew exactly what was going on. Doug clarified it this morning on the show. If you want to go back and podcast, it was the 8 o'clock segment 2, that would be brutal. Yep. And that's what I was concerned about. Again, not because like 50% or even 10% or even 5% would do that, but all it takes is one or two.
Yeah, those are the ones you remember.
And it's usually the sleeper cell ones that are lying dormant. They join as a real account, but then they change their name, and then now it's a burner, and then they just want to start shit. Yep. And that's what I was worried about. And for real, I've had one DM, I've had one email, and then today I got a text, but I don't think the text was coming from a bad place. Not that the email and the DM were necessarily coming from a bad place. It just totally went against what the Vaughn family requested, which was just requesting privacy. Yeah. But I mean, you're talking about a passionate audience, for better or for worse. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not, but for better or for worse. And the most popular guy on the show is just out all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. We don't know ourselves exactly. Yeah. Doug himself doesn't know exactly initially what's going on. Yeah. And understandably, people want to know. It's human nature. Yep. If I listened to, I don't know what a good comparison would be, because Stern wouldn't be a good comparison. But if I listened to a show I loved and, the most popular guy is just all of a sudden not there, inevitably, I'd talk with other friends of mine who listen to the show. I'd go, what do you think's going on? What's going on? Have you heard anything? That's human nature. Yeah. And I don't chastise anybody for that. That's done privately. Uh-huh. It's when it would go public that would have been an issue. Uh-huh. And so that was handled so, and has been handled. Now Doug's appeared, so now, most people think it's a conspiracy. It's been explained, but, and he sounds great, which can really put everything to rest. But that has been, and I'm not sure every audience does that. I can't speak for other audiences. I don't know other audiences, but I love our audience for that. Yeah. That is such a great thing because it's the first time the show has been faced with that. Yeah. And people respected it. And, I love Doug in a friend, and we've been through a lot together, over 20 years, but he's not my father, in Jody's case, not his, not her husband. And I'm just like, I don't want this group of 4 people who don't know what's going on with their husband/father to be exposed to some of the toxicity that we are exposed to. And it's not limited to the fan page, text inbox, emails that we get, and you're thinking nobody will do it. But when you add in the element of politics, that was, again, it wasn't going to be a bunch of people, but 1 or 2 going, well, I know he's got COVID, because all that would take with that, and he didn't get vaxxed, and so he's getting what he's deserved. Yeah. And that's all, and be like, that's when the emotions you can lose control, because you're already on edge as it is. Yep. You're so close with your dad. And can you imagine, essentially the same age as Greg Vaughn, I think. Yeah, basically. Yeah, and Doug's essentially around the same age as your dad. And if you were reading this while you're worried about your dad's health and somebody's on there. Couldn't imagine. Yeah. It would be Yeah, you'd have a tough time keeping it in. Yeah. And so that's what I was trying to think of, like, okay, how can I do whatever I can to help keep that from happening, even though I can't completely control it. Yeah. And when it got down to it, the audience just was incredible. I can't say enough about it. It's one of those things. It's like the when we raised money for Officer Blake Snyder, if I'm not mistaken, at Sperring Middle School or elementary school. I apologize for not knowing. I know it was Sperring. And we raised like $25,000. And I'm just like, I'll be eternally grateful for that.
Yeah, Larry Nickel.
The Larry Nickel thing, raising $65,000. Eternally grateful for that. This wasn't a case of raising money, but it was just beautiful because I know, I mean, shit, I get asked about my contract, by strangers.
Yeah.
So if you love the show, good chance you love Doug, and then therefore you're automatically going to be curious.
Yep.
And people handled it privately and respected the Vaughn family's request for privacy, and that was just an incredible thing. All right, so this person was asking about a real girl, was asking about the live reads. Whether the live reads are hilarious, whether it's you or Doug using pregnant pauses for effect, copy that plays off show content, or mistakes in the copy, like driving St. Louis traffic to sheet stores in Brooklyn, or referencing events in the past. They are must listen to, unlike the spots on other podcasts to which I subscribe and fast forward through. My question is, the copy is read by different hosts and sometimes Rockio. How is it determined who will do the read? Does the sponsor get to choose? Is there a premium for one host over another? If it's a national spot where they likely don't know one host from another, do you flip a coin or decide based on who makes more sense based on the product? I just listened to yesterday's show, and this email was sent in August, so this is August 24th, and it was most likely inside baseball, which I love. So if you can talk about this type of thing, I know I would be interested. Thanks for all you do. That's from a real live girl. Never thought I would be asked about how the live reads are distributed. But I'll answer the question. I'll go one by one. My question is, the copy is read by different hosts and sometimes Rockio. How is it determined who will do the read? In the case of the national buyers, which would be like, I'm doing a Roman spot right now.
Harry's back.
Harry's, Brooklinen, which was made reference to with the sheets in Brooklyn. Ad results is the buyer, and ad results requests me to do the spot. So do with that what you want. That doesn't really mean anything, but that's the answer to your question. With other clients, they may request a specific talent do them. I think another thing that's happened is if somebody has gotten so overloaded with spots, they try to then maybe to get other voices, have other people do spots. Yep. That's what does the sponsor get to choose? Absolutely. If the sponsor wants me or wants Doug, or Iggy or Jackson or Matt or whomever, then the sponsor can absolutely request the talent. Is there a premium for one host over another? I know it like FMs there is, Nurse.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, it is. So, yes, but I don't think that's the case. I think there is a standard rate for a live endorsement on TMA. If it's a national spot where they likely don't know one host from another, do you flip a coin or decide based on who makes? Well, it's not our decisions. We host the show, but as I said, with regard to the ad results, they have me doing them. So there you go. I'm happy to answer the question. I don't know how interesting it is to the majority of people, but a real live girl sends an email in and you get read if you are a female. Yep. All right, before I go on to more questions, and I'm leaving in 9 minutes, Jackson, how great is it that my son has soccer practice at 11:30, and I'm going to leave by 11:15 because I'm not going to miss soccer practice. I can't wait to go.
Yeah, no, I'm happy.
I know you're happy to be here. I can pick up your body language. You are. I'm more so getting to see your son play some soccer. That's cool. I love it. Yeah. I can't tell you
it's cool
how much I love this.
Yeah.
I don't know. And it's one of those things that, 5 years ago when I didn't have a child, I would have just been like, oh my God, I got to go watch. For me, again, I think a lot of it is I'm 44. If I were 24, I'm not sure I would have felt this way. I also probably wouldn't have had the flexibility at 24 to go do this. So I'm sure you're sitting here going, Jesus, dude, you and this, okay, have fun. But for me, I love it. Yeah. I guess I'm grateful that I have the schedule that allows me to, at 11:30 on a Monday, go run and watch my son essentially pick flowers out of the ground.
Run. He'll be doing a lot of running. Yeah.
Or, and the thing is, he is so damn fast when he's chasing me around the house. It's at a point now where I can't outrun him. And it's not like I'm like, it's not like I'm swift anymore, but it's not like I'm slow either. And I'm like, I can't outrun him. We play this thing where I run around the house, and it used to, then I would have time to go hide, and now I don't have time to hide because he's on my ass. And I go, why aren't you running like this when you're out on the soccer field?
Seriously, yeah.
It's kind of nuts. Anyway, I got libraries to do. Design Air Heating and Cooling, designairservice.com. The great Seth Goldcamp is the official HVAC provider of the Tim McKernan Show podcast, the Pick Six podcast, presented by Tullamore Dew, and the Ryan Kelly Morning After. If you have any heating and cooling issues, make sure you are doing business with Seth Goldcamp and Design Air Heating and Cooling. I am a client. Jackson's parents are clients. Doug's a client. It's Design Air Heating and Cooling online at designairservice.com. Jackson, tell me about Mark Hanna of Evergreen Wealth Strategies.
Boy, that Mark Hanna, he truly is the best in the business, because everything he does is for his client. It's for you. It's not for him. Like, he's not doing this just because, like, you know, I mean, it is his job, but he really enjoys doing it. I've talked to him. I said, what do you got planned for the rest of the day? After we talked, he goes, oh, I got like a bunch more people I got to call and get the call.
How about that?
But I love doing it because he loves helping people out. And he helps people out because every person's different. Like, not everyone's going to be in the same position I'm in, and I'm not in the same position they're in. And Mark understands that, and he'll help you to achieve whatever you want in your life. He doesn't care what it is. If you want to save for the future, if you want to save for next year, if you want to save for next month, he'll give you the best strategy for it, and he'll give it to you how you need, like, whatever person, because every person is different. And Mark understands that, caters to each and every person, and he's the best. And if you don't work with anybody, you know, stop worrying about it. Instead, call Mark and stop worrying about it.
889-0503.
Yep.
Make that call, Jackson. Make it.
It's the best decision I've made in the last 6 months.
I love hearing that. That makes me so happy.
Yeah, it really
I don't
is.
want to know your financials, but I'd love to see where you are, like when you first called, like in 2 years, and how it will be on this uptick,
Yeah.
whereas mine was probably declining.
Yeah,
in
I'm
part
really
because of
looking forward to seeing that too.
It's such a good thing. I'm so happy for you. You'll be in such a good spot when you're my age. That's a great thing. And also Jamie Burkhardt and Clayton Patterson at Munganess, stlouisacura.com, altontoyota.com. The deal for our listeners is this. You want a 2021 car at Munganess, St. Louis Acura, Alton Toyota? Fine, no problem. Here it is. You go out there and you tell them you're a Ryan Kelly Morning After listener, a Tim McKernan Show podcast listener, and you get $1,000 off that 2021 car just by telling them that. Couldn't make it any more simple than that. Plus, if you're looking for a pre-owned vehicle, they have more than 300 on the lot for you. You can go check that out and shop online right now for the pre-owned selection at stlouisacura.com and altontoyota.com. Tim, I just finished listening to the QFTA episode. As a longtime listener of your musings, I was actually listening the day InsideSTL.com debuted. Wow. We have a lot. Sometimes maybe I don't give enough credit to the number of people who've been listening for as long as they've been listening. I mean, that's August 15th, 2005.
Sheesh.
I wanted to let you know how much I have enjoyed the recent opinions and discussions regarding both St. Louis and the Cardinals on both the podcast and TMA. I moved to Westfield, Indiana 9 months ago due to a job change, but still remain a dedicated daily listener via PLTD, so thanks for that. One of the things I thought of while listening was something I heard the great Bob Bragg say one time regarding Mizzou football. Mr. Bragg stated that the problem with Mizzou fans is that they want to go 11-0 every year, playing the toughest schedule in the country, and then not cheat. Obviously, this was during the Big 8 days when Oklahoma and Nebraska ruled football, but I've always thought it was a somewhat fascinating explanation and wonder if this same attitude seems to persist with the B-Fibs today as well. One of the interesting things I've experienced during this relocation has been how different it is to move to an area where a lot of people are from somewhere else. My wife and son and I moved into a neighborhood, and of the families immediately around our house, only one is actually from Indy. That just does not seem to be the case in St. Louis. It has been an interesting adventure, having spent most of my life in St. Louis, with the exception of 2 years in Little Rock and 2 years in Springfield. Especially as an adult with a family, as the biggest challenge was helping our son adjust to a new school and finding friends during a pandemic, which has been challenging to say the least. I realize I am beginning to ramble and don't need to take any more of your time. Just wanted to give some feedback and say thanks as well, and express that I think these St. Louis topics are discussions that should keep happening. Thanks. That comes from Mark.